Thank you for staying for our talk. We wanted to sort of set up a conversation that will almost tee up a talk that's happening a little bit later. I think at 4:30 or 5. It's a longer conversation with PacketFabric CTO Anna Claiborne. So they'll be going more in depth into this topic. Orbital Studios, Crafty Apes, and Medca will be sort of doing a deeper dive to what we're about to kind of tee up here. But this conversation we're about to have is really more, it's surrounding the idea of the stages themselves and these studio facilities, right? That are not necessarily the big 5 studios as we think of them, but that are those almost warehouses, these studio facilities that are often in these far-flung locations and may depend on more limited connectivity, and historically even, SneakerNet has sort of been the way. So when we talk about these stages and the question of getting them connected in a way where these productions that are renting them out, that are using LED walls, that are using volumetric capture, that are generating just large amounts of data that ultimately is going to need to be moved in sort of a more advanced way going forward. And then the question becomes, how? And, so Robbie, I want to bring you into this a little bit because Robbie has been sort of my right-hand guy and he's an engineer at PacketFabric. And also, your way around these stages a bit and how they historically connect. So maybe we can start there. What do they do today? Where are the tides turning? And then how can a PacketFabric start to engage in, really boosting this connectivity for the sea change in virtual production that's happening?
Sure. I think the first is you mentioned not connected at all to anything, right? Then it's SneakerNet, it's whatever you can do to move that data around. The next step up from that is usually some sort of just internet connectivity, right? And this is going to vary wildly, where you can get it, what the providers will offer you. And internet can do the job. It can get you from point A to point B, but there can be a lot of reliability issues, a lot of capacity issues, a lot of congestion, just variability outside of that. Not to mention the cost with high bandwidth internet connections, at least into like remote locations, can get pretty expensive, right? It's definitely cheaper if you're in a data center, but if you're in the, some industrial area in a warehouse, a lot of those companies like a Spectrum, they're going to charge you a lot to get any kind of bandwidth, right? Because you need more than what you get at your home, like 100 megs. You need gigs. Mm-hmm. And so that's the core of the problem is how do you get to these places? And then what do you do once you're there? You can get to everything in the internet, but then you wind up with a lot of increased cost, variability, security issues. You have to set up VPNs. All these kind of things factor into issues with using that as your long-term solution to any of these problems.
So it's almost like these stages and these productions have been relying on office connectivity, for lack of a better phrase, right?
That's
and
pretty much
what they're looking for is production connectivity, which is a whole other ballgame.
Correct.
Yeah. And so like you said, one of the limitations of this office connectivity is security. So what is different about what, say, PacketFabric would offer in terms of its privacy, and how does that operate differently than a VPN or?
Right. So I'm assuming you're familiar, but if you're not, a VPN is a virtual private network. You're usually going to set up a hardware device at each end or one end to encrypt the data and secure it. You get a lot of issues with that in terms of those hardware devices are speed bound, right? You have to pay more to get more throughput, get through it, and there's other complications. PacketFabric's network is a purpose-built private network. It doesn't touch the internet. When you're connected to our network, it's completely private. When you set up a connection between point A and point Z, there's nobody else in between, nobody can get to it. You don't need a VPN because it's inherently secure by design.
So backing up, I guess, just a little bit, just to the fundamentals to unpack that. So we've got a stage and it's in, Santa Clarita. And can it just instantly be connected to PacketFabric? Is that just a flip of a switch and that's that? Or are there various different options? How do we think about fiber? How do we think about last mile, so to speak, which is what?
Last mile is the problem. It's the problem everywhere. There's a lot of ways to solve it, which is why, we're here to help with those kind of solutions and figuring out the best. But it really, everywhere gets down to a cable somewhere, a fiber optic cable. That's even when you're talking just internet connectivity. And fiber is not everywhere. It's not always cheap. And figuring that out, especially if you don't have experience in that area, can be incredibly difficult. We've got some great people who are experts at finding out fiber routes. They know to call, who can build. You can get built into, but there are additional costs and timelines. Building fiber into a facility could take 180 days or more. There's a lot, it depends on cities and permitting. So a lot of this, in the end, in a perfect world, will go into deciding, where the facility is going to be. I've dealt with this in a lot of industries, building a facility based upon a lot of factors, but not really even taking in communications data into the picture. And it's a lot better if it's in an area where there's easy fiber access than somewhere where there's just no fiber.
But it's doable one way or another with a partner, with sourcing it. So let's say that's all set up and this facility can then get connected to the data center. One of the things that we're seeing is somebody was talking about this earlier, sort of a hybrid cloud, not on premise, but not fully cloud-based. There is a happy medium where folks that are producing shows, movies, projects in these stages want that flexibility of sort of having edge-based services, whether it's storage or other data center services, or some combination of that plus public cloud. So we are seeing a lot of that sort of hybrid cloud production environment, virtual production environment that are happening and that are really in demand for these types of production. And then there's also sometimes a need to shoot to cloud or getting directly to the cloud. So there's really a combination. And in a world where you could say connect to AWS and then also connect to Azure and then switch over to GCP, there is potentially a value in having PacketFabric cloud router, which also does allow for that sort of agnostic, seamless switching between clouds, which can be quite convenient too.
Yeah, I should point out, we are a private network, but it's purposefully built, and Anna will probably touch on this later, to give you the flexibility just like a cloud service, right? No long-term contracts. You don't have to sign, like in the typical telco world, you have to sign 12, 24, 36-month contracts. We give you the flexibility. We have an online GUI. Everything is able to be done via an API if you want. And so you can spin up within minutes a new connection to, say, AWS. You can also, when you're done with it, tear it down on short-term basis, which I think is very different. So if you have productions coming in and out, it's not like you have to plan this all out in advance and sign contracts. If you have a new production starting Monday and they're an Azure shop, you can set up connectivity to Azure in a matter of minutes for them, and they can start transferring data. Once you have a port connected to our fabric, that's the kind of flexibility. You can also do that with connections to other people on the fabric. We have partners in a marketplace for connectivity, certain things. Just basically anything, it's kind of how you want to use it, right? And Anna mentioned Cloud Router, which is kind of a step above that, which is right now, let's say you're connecting to Azure and AWS. If you do it the normal way, which is we call layer 2, right? Ethernet. All that data, if you're transferring from AWS to Azure, has to go through you, right? You're kind of the choke point. It's kind of like a V. With our Cloud Router, we offload that routing function into the cloud, right? And a distributed, reliable infrastructure so that it will take the shortest path and it doesn't even have to go back through you, right? We can do it shorter, faster, and better that way.
Yep. And when we do talk about, or when you talk about having that on-demand portal, easy to provision, spin it back down again, Robbie, really does mean there is a portal that is specifically for this type of production connectivity that adheres to the timelines of productions, which is to say, no timelines if you don't want to set one. So you can make that all very flexible. Again, no long-term contracts necessarily. So yes, it is that instant provisioning, secure, on-demand connectivity that bypasses the public internet. So when folks say, okay, but what do you do over the internet? The answer is really, we're instead of that. We're instead of the public internet.
Correct.
So, yeah.
Yeah, and I'll add at very fast speeds, right? We have customer-facing interfaces from 1 gig up through 100 gig. So that can alleviate a lot of bottlenecks, you know, with traditional internet service you get from providers. You get fiber connectivity, you can do that 10 or 100 gig if you want, 40 gig too.
And scalable. So you can choose one, change it. Yeah. We also worth noting acquired a company called RStore last year, a couple, not quite last year, but and so storage, private storage is also part of our offering. That capacity is growing as well.
Correct.
Correct. Do we have any questions from anyone? We have a couple minutes left.